I'm just gonna go live, and I'm the one that actually started 3 minutes late because I was caught up on the video games, and we'll see if Sean sees my message to or sees my invite. But uh, what can I talk about in my masterminds? Had an interview that went well. I spent a significant part of my career doing desktop and mobile application development. And this position was for a back end developer position, um, which on my off time I do back end development, right? My passion projects. And I think that was the only thing that, I mean, from my perspective, I think that's the only thing that they could probably ding me on is I'm not a gainfully employed back end developer, which for the money that I want, I could see them making that argument. But then you have to take into consideration, okay, what have they been doing to compensate on that? Uh, where's your code? What problems have you been solving? What decisions have you made that were somewhat trade-offs? And so I try to articulate that during the interview, but who knows? Out of a tribunal of 5 people, there's only like really 2 people that were asking me questions: the director of engineering and one of their lead developers. That was it. And Sean is back. Hey, Sean.
Hey, sorry about that.
No, I was on the Halo Wars to like 7:33. I had to win, man. So.
Yeah, I had OBS Studio up, so StreamYard was trying to access the mic and cam, and it wasn't. It took me a while to figure out what that was. So
We're good. I had an interview for a back-end developer position, which I think went well. It's weird how like it's a tribunal of like 5 people, and only 2 of them are asking questions, and everybody else is just listening.
yeah, I think I've been in situations like that. So, but
What did you think of that? Did you think that people were being quiet because of like imposter syndrome, or they were sincerely just observing?
I don't know. Whenever you get in groups of, I'm hearing a little feedback, but whenever you get into groups of that many people, and how many people did you say it was?
I think it was like 5.
5. So you end up like getting 1 or 2 people that are the loudest, in the room, and everyone else just, I don't know why there's this phenomenon, but everybody else just kind of sits back and lets those people do the work. And I don't think it's about laziness or lack of interest. There's something, I don't know if it's a social dynamic or what, but that when I'd be in like we'd have team meetings, about whatever technical thing we were working on, and let's just say me and one other person would be talking back and forth, and we'd be, discussing it, and everyone else would just sit there quiet on the call and not say a word. And it would get to the point where it's like, all right, well, we've heard our opinions. And you'd have to actually call people out and be like, hey, I want to hear what you have to say, person XYZ, or you have to say. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's a natural phenomenon, because I've been in groups like that where it's 1 or 2 people that dominate the conversation, and then everyone else just sits back quiet.
And you think about how much that meeting costs and how many people are being paid to just listen to other people back and forth to alphas.
Well, I don't know if it's, alphas but I guess it could be considered that, but the I think there's still value in it. Even in situations where I've been that person who just sits back and listens, sometimes it's valuable just to feel like you're included in the conversation, and to you might just be a good listener and be good at picking up on people's vibes and stuff like that. So just because someone doesn't say saying isn't, just because people aren't saying anything doesn't mean that they're not the most valuable person in the room. So,
Oh, this is true, but if a meeting is about making intelligent decisions that reduce risk, right? Design, tests, maybe meetings, right? That contribute to design. But at the end of the day, it's all about reducing risk, right? Some people may argue, oh no, it's all about delivering value. It's true, but the reason that an organization is assembled is to reduce the risk of that value of something not getting delivered. And that's my personal opinion. So it's like you can be a good listener all you want, but what are you contributing to reduce risk?
yeah, the meeting that they have isn't the meeting with you. The meeting they have is the meeting after being with you.
Okay.
That's the meeting that matters.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what the listener would do is they sit back and they might say one word at the end, but when they're in the closed room in a comfortable situation, plus, if everyone was talking, all five were talking, it could get into quite a jungle gym, I guess. I had an interview and it was 3 people and they just did round robin questions. This was a cultural interview. It was a lot of fun. It's probably the most fun interview I've ever had. So, which interviews don't tend to be fun, but this one was. This was just cultural. It was, they asked just fun questions and, some serious questions, but.
When I interviewed with Quicken Loans, I mean, they took care of me when they flew me in. They gave me a tour guide. They gave me a driver. Like, they took care of me. I feel like they really wanted me to move to Detroit. But the tribunal that was interviewing me, they all had very different personalities. One person did not smile at all. He was always like showing his poker face. Like I vibed with like probably 2 of them. The one that referred me, he just stayed quiet the entire time. He didn't talk much. But I don't know. It's kind of disappointed that I didn't get that job.
Yeah. I think I'll be disappointed if I don't land this one. I've got one more interview left. It's a technical interview, so so far I don't see that they have a coding. Well, I don't know. They might have me live code on Zoom. I don't know, but they didn't. Their instructions really didn't talk about, make sure you've got this set up or do this at a time. So it might just be more of a background and then just gotcha type questions or something. I don't know.
We'll
see.
They had me coding.
And you did it for a non-FANG company?
No. I don't do coding as a prerequisite to get an interview. Like I don't do that unless you are a recognized high performing organization. You could be a high performing organization that's not recognized, but I only do it for a high performing organization that I know is recognized, right? And so I was, they asked me to write some code. How would I write code for blah, blah, blah. And I mean, because I live stream, like it's like second nature. Like hold my cup, and I just start going into a dissertation.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I think some of them had just read the book "Domain Modeling Made Functional" by Scott Blashin, and so like whenever people read that book, then it's kind of like design patterns. They get very excited about making illegal states unrepresentable. And so like some of the questions that one of their lead developers were asking me was, okay, well, you wrote this code, but, how can you take these primitive types such as an ID property of some data transfer object, and how can you ensure that it doesn't mistakenly get duplicated for another data transfer values ID, right? At compile time, I'm not sure how I can do that off the top of my mind, but I think I would probably at runtime. I could register it in a dictionary, that dictionary would be a registry, and it would throw an exception or something that I could catch if that has already been registered within the system of data transfer values. But at compile time, like, I'm not sure I can really protect against that. And I mean, there was a couple other questions that they would ask, like, well, why don't you use a discriminated union? And I'm like, well, because there's no tools that I'm aware of that, in regards to sending data or receiving data over the wire, that support discriminated unions. So, like, that stuff is great within the business domain of your code base, but when it comes to the edges, hence the UI, or specifically IO, or the data gateway, the data gateway, like, I end up spending all my time writing all these different conversions or mappers, and it kind of gets away from the actual core responsibility itself. So I just started going to a dissertation. I'm not sure if they bought it or not.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. That discriminated unions are a lot like inheritance, and when you get onto JSON side of it, well, or inheritance with a discriminator, right? But when you get into like JSON conversions, like, what do you do then? Because what I do is I take every property of the inherited thing and I make it like a every property that I want to expose, make it a property on the object, and then I put a discriminator in there. So a particular column, which is exactly how Entity Framework does it. When you have a inheritance, they have a discriminator based on the type name that they drop into the table. So,
for me, like, if I know that data needs to get transferred, like, I just don't use discriminated unions for everything anymore.
sure.
And so, like, the short answer is, I learned my lesson for trying to make everything type safe and only legal at compile time. And it's just, you start writing obfuscated code to do that. And it's just, I'm probably not going to answer your question, but I just found that for me, it's not worth the effort to try to protect against something like that. I think it's a combination of integration tests, some strong types, but like, yeah, it's kind of like the same thing with aspect-oriented programming. You start writing all this boilerplate code, and it in a way, like, aspect-oriented program was meant to put focus on the business logic, but then you have all these attributes all over the place, and it's a distraction.
Yeah, it's harder to reason about too sometimes. Yeah. So do you just, and I think I'm in a similar place. Do you make sure that your domain or your core application or the core of your program is all, as unbreakable as possible with type system and stuff like that, but then just at the edges, you go into loose structures, and because that's what I do. I mean, every data that comes in to like a MVC app is potentially bad. And so even the structure, why try to enforce anything there? So what I tended to do is I take in, a raw DTO, and then I do the process of constructing was the process of validation for that data, is how I treated it. So when it transferred into a command object, or a some sort of domain object that I want to deal with, that mapping process was the process of validation.
So I use internals visible to often. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that attribute.
Yep. Yeah.
And so what I borrowed from Scott Vlashin's book is some smart constructors that are going to return some or none.
Yep.
And so, I mean,
and if they return none, that's the validation, right? If you can't construct it based on the items that you're giving it, it doesn't break, but it tells you, no, you can't have this object. And that tells you that this is a bad request.
Yeah. And so instead of relying on choice types, aka discriminated unions, sprinkled throughout my code base, which ends up having me code a lot of mapping utilities for the data gateway, I will create data types and tag those modules that those data types are under that have to be qualified in order for them to be used. And so you just can't you just can't spin up an instance of a particular structure just because you want to. No, you have to get to a certain amount of stages, or you have to go through a specific set of stages in order to be able to get access or to spin up this type of value. And so I just rely on smart constructors for things that are marked invisible or internals.
That reminds me of something I was thinking about earlier this week, because I've used smart constructors in C#, but they're a pain to write. Because I mean, you're validating all of the inputs for the most part, right? I suppose if you break it down. Anyways, I'm just wondering. One of the thoughts that went through my mind with source generators is if you could write a utility to a source generator to generate the smart constructors for a class based on attributes, in the same way that you would write how if you're sending like an MVC app or whatever, and you have a DTO, you can do all sorts of property attributes that will define the validation rules, like min max values, length, whatever. And I wonder if you could use those same attributes and source generators to generate smart constructors for classes on demand or on the fly, so that you don't have to write them yourself. I'm guessing the logic would be a little complex, but maybe you've got some library code behind it that does the actual validation. Anyways, have you looked at source generators much?
No, I haven't. I don't know. I'm not confident. I feel like it's trying to do the same thing that aspect-oriented programming tried to do. Why is this thing not working?
No, I don't think it does that. I think it solves the problem of. Have you ever had to do code generation for something where you've got some sort of okay? So no, I don't think it does that. I think it solves. Hearing myself. So like for instance, one of the companies that I worked for, they had a back end that was in C code. They had a C# front end, and they would do code generation based off some files and stuff like that. I think that's a use case that would have worked here. Maybe, having like a WSDL that you'd have to update probably would have been another type of thing. But anything that you do via reflection could probably be done via a source generator. Not everything, but a lot of it. So it'll let you, instead of incurring the cost at runtime of doing reflection and grabbing all that stuff out, you could do it at compile time, which is pretty neat. But I think it opens the door to extensions, language extensions and stuff like that. I guess somebody wrote I was watching a video on it. Somebody actually wrote a transpiler in a source generator to C#. So they took some other programming language, ran it through the source generator, and was able to create C# code from it. So I don't know. There's a lot of it's a tool, obviously, and I think whenever the problem arises that you need it for, it'll be like, I can use source generators for this.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that we're in the phase where it's like, let's try to source generate everything. But I think,
fantasy console with that tool then.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I might have a reason to do it there. I was thinking about the fantasy console that I helped with, which is called Pixel Vision 8. And one of that Moonscript, I think you might have been watching my stream when I was talking about Moonscript, which is a Lua interpreter. There's they use reflection for most of it, but they had like a hardwire compile step that you could do that would actually just generate all of the bindings so that it wouldn't use reflection, which would improve the performance of it. And I think that's actually the perfect example of where source generators might be useful, is in that Moonscript tool.
Well,
But I haven't. The one thing that so like getting a source generator up and going is all easy, but the what I haven't found a good tutorial on is how you extract information, like just a simple API to get at the compilation and understand, like, how do you know what namespace is there or what's available or what's being compiled as part of your project or whatever. I know it's possible to get all this stuff probably, but I just I have no concept of like the API into the source generator context or whatever it is. Compilation context isn't very friendly, or I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. Not mostly just because of lack of time or wanting to not spend a lot of time devoted to it. But anyways, so you're gonna start doing the YouTube thing?
Oh, in regards to competition, yeah, I mean, I think you'll win, right? Unless I do something that's more geared towards mainstream. That's your short answer. Like right now, I'm still like juggling 2 different clients. So like,
I thought you were done with them.
I thought I was too. I told them
they keep pulling you back in.
Monday. I told them that my last day was Friday, and hey, I got this running on iOS. Thanks. Like they're not communicating with me, so I don't think they like me. But like, well, I mean, you've been doing you were doing contract. Like when you don't really have much correspondence with them. To me, that means like, yeah, they probably don't like working with you. Right? Okay. Like they don't say anything to me, right? I'll post something on Slack, and they used to respond within 10 minutes when I first started. Now they respond like 2 hours later, if they respond. Like, so, all right, whatever. I'm not sure if they didn't like my assessment of the code base. I don't know. It's hurt feelings. I don't know. In regards to YouTube, I think like for that whole competition of obtaining subscribers, I think I would have to like pull a John Sonmez and be a PlayStation 5 for this is how you get your Xbox Series X. I have to do something hella mainstream if I really want to win the proposed competition. I'm sorry, but there's just not a satisfactory number of advanced. I don't even want to say intermediate because I do think I'm advanced, right? Advanced software developers. Like there's not. Now there's probably a huge number of people of how do I write hello world in Clojure or in Python. I'm not interested in that though, right?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. And there's no problem if you didn't want to do that. I was just trying to think of a way to keep me on task and motivated. And
no, I mean, I'm still down.
Competition is something.
I'm just saying that the current method that I use, and it's kind of like what you were doing, right? Where like I don't really at the time. It's still kind of. It's like you probably don't care because I'll pop into your channel like 3 times a day, and you don't care if people are viewing your stuff. If you're like me, and I'm not saying you are, for some reason I get more motivated if I stream what I'm doing I don't know why. I don't know if it's arrogance. I don't know what it is. But if I stream me programming, I'm more engaged versus me just being disconnected in a dark corner. Like I don't know why it's like that mentally, but
Mm-hmm.
when I'm connected and streamed, regardless of if there's anybody viewing me on Twitch or YouTube, I just feel more engaged. Maybe it's more competitive. I don't know. Maybe it's because I have a chance to broadcast my skills or lack of, just in case someone pops in. It's something mental when I'm streaming that makes me more productive, and I can't explain why.
Do you ever here's a question. Do you talk to yourself when you're streaming and
Yeah.
not talk to yourself when you're in the dark corner?
Yeah.
So
Unless I do something that I thought was somewhat challenging, then I'll praise myself, even though even though I'm disconnected. No, because I mean that's good for self-esteem when you praise yourself for doing something good subconsciously. Um, but no, like if it's just general like tedious programming and like I'm disconnected, no, I don't think out loud as I'm programming. I only do that when I'm streaming, just in case someone happens to pop in and they want to figure out what I'm doing, or if I want to expose a little bit of my personality.
Yeah, so that's a difference between just programming on your own versus streaming, is that you actually have to communicate what you're saying.
Well,
or you don't have to, but you feel like you want to.
I feel like I'm the athlete and a commentator at the same time.
Yeah, but you're constantly rubber ducky programming then, right?
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but yeah.
Yeah, and well, writing is thinking, but I think talking is thinking too. You could have lots of thoughts, but when you try to put them into words, it totally changes your way that you process them internally, because you have to think about how to communicate it outwards. So there's probably some value just in that self-talk.
The worst is when I run into a compiler error and I can't figure it out, and it takes me like 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes me half an hour, and I don't understand what it's trying to communicate to me. Those are the worst, especially when I'm live streaming, because I'm like, oh, just exposed. I'm a bad developer. Well, and it's something very, very simple, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, the other day I was doing the arrow keys to switch tabs left and right, and I know right is plus and left is negative, but I flipped them. Then I spent about 20 minutes trying to debug why I had them backwards, and thinking it was, maybe this is a mono game bug and blah blah blah, and which is never the case. It's like 99% of the time, if it's like you think it's a bug in a well-established framework or something, it's really your problem. Somewhere you did something along the lines. And I had just messed up in my head that I flipped those two around, got my left and right backwards. So I felt like such a a joker or a faker or whatever after that. But I don't know. Plus, what sucks about this stuff is so I think the code that I'm writing now is purely to understand what I need, which is why I'm hacking it all out. It's not to be foolproof or whatever. Because I think I need to understand the problem. Because I don't know, programming to me is thinking, and like I could sit back and design all of this stuff out for days and then come back in and try to write the perfect thing to start. But I'll get something wrong and it'll throw all my designs out.
If that's the case, I'm curious why you didn't go the TDD approach.
I don't know. I don't really. This is kind of TDD, but I'm not because I've got a flow in my head that I need to follow, and I'm running it and testing it as I go. It's just I'm not automating the test. But.
Okay, I would say like.
But I'm not doing I'm not doing the.
You're imagining what the API would look like if you were the one using it, right?
I'm maybe rephrase that.
Okay, so I view TDD as if I were the one building the API, this is how I would do it. I would wish that there would be an interface that exposed this method, this property. And so it would look like this. And then it doesn't compile, right? And then you fill it in so it does compile. Like the way I think about TDD is, this is how I would imagine the programming interface to be. And then I write it out and then it finally compiles. So when you were saying that, I'm just trying to get an understanding of the model or the domain. And I was like, well, I'm surprised you're not TDDing that to get an understanding of how you would interface with that. That's what I meant.
Yeah, but I'm not worried about at this time the interface. I'm worried about the what needs to exist in it to realize the scenario, like what operations or objects and stuff like that. Not necessarily how to program against it, but still, yeah, I don't know. I think of this as this one that I'm building right now is a prototype for sure. It's not going to be the final thing. I think my thought is once I get enough of it hacked together, where I can see the places where it's crumbling or where it's less than ideal, or that it needs clarification, I can go through and do the nice clean version. But I don't know. Still, I still have trouble with tests, man. I don't know what it is. It feels like such a waste of time.
It's not a waste.
I know it's not. It's like
this is what's disturbing me right now. I lose every single time, right? And I'm kind of deviating. Why is it that QA is always at the end? Every time I try to push for them to give me their test plan or to write a test plan at the project kickoff, I'm never successful, right? And so I'll build out the application to the wireframes or to the spec, which is always a happy path. And then I spend like maybe an eighth. How do you do this? I spend maybe a quarter to a third of the remaining time refactoring to accommodate all these different edge cases. I just noticed because I saw an email that said that my that QA had failed my resolution. And it's annoying that I can't, and this is kind of related to what you're saying, it's annoying that I can't get organizations to involve QA at the beginning to write out their test plan, which includes the SAD paths or edge cases, so that I can incorporate that into my general design. And it's just annoying because now they think I'm a bad developer, and it's like, I don't know. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, why is QA always at the end?
I think it's because development's a little messy and requirements aren't usually complete when you start. And so they have to augment their test plan all along, just like as they build it and they see how things progress, they have to augment it. And by the end, it's probably going to be nothing like you started with, just like the way you think about the problem. And I guess it depends on how well it's spec'd out, but test plans also take time to develop, right?
They do. Yes.
I was going to say, but I mean, maybe you should be asking why aren't the requirements written in terms of tests then, instead of asking where the test plan is. Put it on the analysis side. Answer that question though. Some is analyst type people or whatever developers that are doing analysis work. I know, right? Cucumber, Gherkin, or whatever the heck it is. They'll write given then when.
Gherkin.
Yeah. They'll write given then when stuff, and it's behavior-driven development. And those are tests, right? They're observable, given.
Yeah, I think they're called acceptance tests, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, OMG 98 TTT. What kind of name is that? Sounds familiar. Was he the person we thought was a bot, or was that someone else?
I think that was someone else, but this could be a bot. Who knows? Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my God. Oh, hablo español. Okay.
No troll.
I see.
But I don't know. I think that, there's a flow to programming and to software development, and I don't think if there is a QA person, um, I don't think that they really have everything together until they see how everything breaks out. It necessarily has to come. Like, they can get a rough idea to start, but they're wasting usually a lot of time. Plus, there's a never-ending cycle where they have to test what you did last sprint.
I'm not in Discord.
Yeah, I'm not either. But
Feel free to comment. But teacher in programming. Yeah, so I don't know. I just get annoyed when I see people reject my resolutions. I mean, like 90% of the time they're right. It's just
yeah,
I feel like I'm curious how Google and Microsoft and Amazon. I'm curious what their how they manage that. Surely they don't wait at the end, right? I'm almost positive they're probably hella waterfall, right, for customer facing products. Maybe not back end tools, right, but for customer facing, I'm almost positive they're waterfall.
yeah, maybe. But it could be that the developers and the QA people they're working together. Like, I think of it as a constant small interaction back and forth. Um, or, I don't know. Maybe you need to spend some time as a QA and to know how they think.
I did.
Uh,
I started my career in software testing.
hmm.
Ooh, but
Well, then why don't you know the answer?
because I was a junior when I got hired.
Gotcha.
I was doing a co-op in school, and then while I was working.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't get annoyed if a QA fails what I'm doing. For one, it's a conversation. It's not like they fail what I'm doing. They find something for me. It's a positive thing. Like, oh my gosh, how did I let this through? I feel bad. Like, I feel bad about, like, oh man, how did I let this through? What did I do? Why was I lazy and I didn't think about this? Or how did I miss this? Or how did I not test this myself? So I put the burden on myself. It's uh, the responsibility of quality is in our hands. So, I
What's a Quentin? I'm looking at this comment.
a Quentin super cooled. Don't know. It's probably a certain kind of computer.
So, how much further do you have in your project?
A ways. It's gonna go for a while, I think. I mean, I got Python running yesterday. I've still got to get like sprites loaded. I got to get code loaded through that API. I've got to design that out, and then I haven't even started looking at music APIs and drawing APIs and stuff like that. So the thing is, there's work that could keep someone busy in this for months. And what I want to do is I want to work on this as kind of my live stream project, but I want to do other videos that are kind of intermingled. I actually started, like, I was going to do a video on Monday and start recording one for doing like how you should recognize when you should use link. Because I've seen this with
Yeah, I'm about to change it to private chat so I don't see it.
Yeah. But I was gonna do one where I was gonna make a video about how to recognize when you probably should be using link for people that haven't made that leap yet. So link, because it's an obvious pattern, but people don't recognize it because they haven't trained themselves to think that way yet. And you've
I
probably
would feel like you would have a choice. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. We all started pre-link, and then we had to get with the program once we inherited a code base, right?
well, but
But
it's
I know some people that they write for loops all over the place, and it's probably different for you because you do the video game programming stuff. So, but like I see C# developers that program as if they're still in like the year 2000 Java.
yeah, it's not. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just but it's a mental. I mean, it still works. It's just you can write a lot less code, and so people. I don't blame anyone. I mean, if I hadn't been trained on it, or if I hadn't have taken the time to learn it, or if I didn't have my aha moment, I'd still be back in that realm. Now I think of everything whenever there's a collection, I think of it in terms of streams and how I want to process that stream through a set of mutations or maps and filters and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I mean, but it is bad though, like because you're programming a language that's meant for productivity. All right.
yeah,
And if you wanted to program old school, then you should continue programming in C or C++.
well, a lot of it, I think the bad of it is probably more around that you might be wasting memory, or you're loading more into memory than you need to, because every time you do when you do essentially a map operation, I mean, and you're going from a list to a list or something like that, you're duplicating all that data. And anyways, whereas I think enumerables allow you to push through one at a time through link. But anyways, but I mean, you know the pattern though, right? It's like for each this, and if you're going to a list of the same type, if you're using a list, assuming, then you're basically doing a map operation or a filter operation probably, because your output collection is the same type as your input collection. So you're probably doing a filtering operation on it. And then like if you have a different type as your output type to whatever your sub procedure you're doing, it's like that's a map activity. And then if it's like a single type, it's a reduce. So
Yeah, but that's not C#.
Hmm?
That's not C# terms or terminology.
Yeah, well, it's select where
It's,
and aggregate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but if you do is just recognize the fact that, hey, I'm using a for each loop, immediately I should think link, and then how to mentally map that into what the actual correct operator is, or method is. It's am I doing you can look at the inputs and output types and then what you're doing in the course of it, and you can easily put it together, as long as you know what to look for.
Did you embrace C# now?
9?
Yeah.
I have and I haven't. I have in the sense that I'm really excited about records. I haven't. Well, no. If you're trying to go for type safety on simple types, I wouldn't do this in game program because it's like a waste of like garbage collection is a big deal. But in any time that, let's say, I would have like I don't know, maybe I'll go nuts with this, but I want to do types for pretty much every primitive now.
Why?
Because they're cheaper now. Like I can just make a record, and I just have a record with a value, and it'll do the equality stuff all for me. I don't need to have a base value type object or anything like that. And the syntax is small, so I can do it in a single line. I can define the type. So what I can do is, let's say for a first name or something like a string, if I wanted to give it a type, I could just make a record that is a type first name, and then when I decide I want to apply rules to it, I can.
Okay.
After the fact. Like
there's still code to unwrap it, but like, okay.
You mean unwrap it, like get the value out, or what?
Like in regards to data transfer structures and sending it over the wire, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't plan on using. Well, I might use records there for some small objects and stuff like that, but I'm talking about within the domain itself. Like I feel like it gives a lot more ability to flex the type system without
I don't like it.
a lot of stuff, without a lot of boilerplate. Anytime there's a value object like that I would have used before, or a where I want to effectively alias a type, I think it makes sense.
I can't imagine being a new developer and learning C#. It has no philosophy. It's literally a kitchen sink at Denny's that you have all these different ways of doing it, and as a brand new developer, like I don't know where to start. Can you imagine like being in a coding interview for a junior position and you're fresh out of like the university or a boot camp? And like, yeah, one would argue that, well, if you came from a university or boot camp, you should know something. But it's like, I don't like C# anymore. Like, I haven't embraced C#9. It's too messy. There's no philosophy. There's no, I don't think there's constraints. You have regions, right? You remember regions? I hope you still use regions. I used to use it religiously.
I would delete. People use them, and I just go in and delete them because I hate them so much.
I used to use them religiously. Now it's the opposite. You're a bad developer if you use regions, right?
I wouldn't say you're a bad developer, but you haven't felt the pain of them yet. Maybe.
Yeah.
Same with overuse of inheritance, though. I mean, I did that. Overuse of inheritance for code sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another trap people fall into. But the thing is that the system, the code language is flexible to support a bunch of different paradigms. So you can pick which paradigm you want and get at least a baseline, and it's not going to be as any good as any language that sticks very religiously to a particular paradigm. But
at what point is something a general purpose language versus a language that turns into like JavaScript? And maybe JavaScript is good now. I don't know. I don't program in it. But
it's fine as a dynamic language. It's confusing in a lot of ways, but
yeah. So it sounds like you're for it. I wish. This is me wishing something for you. I wish you could lock yourself indoors for a week and pick a true enough FP, whether it's like Clojure or F# or whatever. And I have reason to believe that your thoughts about C# is going to change a lot. I could be wrong, but like I feel like if you just locked yourself and just force yourself to just pick one of them things up and implement your fantasy console, like
no,
I think you understand my line of thinking a little bit better.
No, the thing is I'm like this close to being there, but the thing is just because I learned C# doesn't mean, for instance, that I think C any less of C. I think there's some stuff that for instance in C that you could do and do better or easier than in C# even. And that's without objects and without proper functions. I mean, it's really a very procedural or imperative language.
I look at C# as a nostalgia language. It's like Coleco or Atari. It's something that isn't modern, but you appreciate what it was. You appreciate the evolution that came from it, right? And so, like, I don't know. I mean, I program in it in my day job. I do. And it's interesting how I write code now with it. But all the stuff that they're adding to it I mean, it kind of reminds me of me being a Java developer or something where like I swear, a majority of Java developers, they did not like the bar reserved word. I don't know, why can't I be explicit with everything, right? And I kind of feel the same way about C sharp. It's like, why don't you just let that language be what it is and stop it? Stop versioning it. Just let it be C sharp. It's not F sharp. Let it be C sharp. Why are you trying to make it F sharp now? Like,
But
let it
why
be.
not? I mean, they're
Because
trying to help
it's
people. So you started with C sharp on something, and there's a lot of jobs in it. There's a lot of people who know it, but they want to write less verbose code to achieve better results, without having to bring in a new language entirely. Um, and so that's what they're doing, is they're iterating on it to improve the developer experience, right? So the reason why records are interesting to me is because I've written value objects. I've had to write those, equality overrides that are confusing as all hell to figure out how to write. Especially the hash one always gets me. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I doing it right? It's always find some boilerplate code out there that someone wrote and just copy it in. And gosh, I hate doing all of that. And I'm happy that they wrote something to do that for me. Because all I really want is to say, hey, this thing is a value type, and
See,
it's got.
Roman agrees with me, so I must be right. I'll look back at the comments again.
Yeah, but I mean, going into, so if I get this job, it sounds like some people there are giving F sharp a try, um, and I think I really would need to make that leap. I would really need some, like corporate sponsorship. It's a way to think of it. Like, I just don't. If I'm working on a side project, I want to be productive in it in some way, or I'm trying to do some sort of project. I'm not trying to, like with this fantasy console thing. I'm trying to write the fantasy console. What language I use is just, it's if I could just will it into existence, it would be better than writing a code language, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
so I'm going to use whatever I feel most productive in. Um, but given the chance in a corporate environment where I feel like I could actually give value to the company or reduce risk in your nomenclature, yeah, I'd be all about getting down with it, especially if there's people that I can get some mentorship from. So, but for side projects at home, man, it's hard enough to get a side project to come up with, let alone have to feel like you have to learn the the programming language at the same time as the domain. So
yeah, I'm curious that you're able to sustainably write code live without your family pulling you away. I mean, I see it like I see your kids like asking you for help with homework or whatever, but
well, my wife's at work and my son's at daycare. My daughter's here because she's they've got distance learning right now because of COVID. But she would be in school normally. So um, uh, so given all of that, I don't really have to necessarily get pulled away unless she's got a problem. And I usually leave at about 11 a.m. or I had been leaving at around 11. That's because that's when her lunch break is. So I go and make her lunch, and we chat or whatever then, and then she goes back to school and I go back to doing this.
cool.
But really, I mean, that's going to be the hard part. So if I do get another job, or when I get another job, I still want to be doing this. I want to still do the streaming thing, and I want to keep on the YouTube stuff because I've looked at so maybe I did a bunch of streaming maybe 3-4 years ago, and I've got some with some good amount of views. And now I'm just thinking, had I continued along all this time, could I have been monetized and maybe just able to, leave a job and actually just do YouTube stuff full time? Or
People are doing it.
I know they're doing it all the time, which
A lot
is
of them
why,
are.
yeah, which is why it makes me kind of excited to think about that. You know, to kind of be able to do stuff on my own terms and help people. But
I want to start a white supremacist channel. that should go viral. So.
Scott, your white shirt supremacy. White shirts are superior to all other shirts. No, just the color of your shirt. So there was
the difference is like even like your branding. Like when I'm on YouTube and you like bubble to the top of the list. I honestly don't remember subscribing to you. I don't. Like I didn't know you had a channel, but it pops up at the top of the list when I go on YouTube, and like the thumbnail, like I mean, it looks professional. My stuff is like I don't do anything. I just live, and that's it. It just takes a snapshot of whatever I look at or look like. So, and I'm not interested in spending money. I'm not interested in paying somebody.
Oh, I'm not. Yeah,
make myself look professional because it's like I don't have high aspirations of this going anywhere. It's just me like documenting my journey. That's pretty much it. I mean, you introduced the notion of let's have a friendly competition. I'm like, well, if I do that, I'm going to have to change my content.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm curating. It doesn't take much. The thumbnail thing, like I threw that together in Paint.net in like, half hour or something one morning, and then all I did was just make the same thing, and all I do is change the little heading every time. So I'm worried like these videos are live streams, so they're really off the cuff. There's not like it's not very strict to the point, and there's no like I don't know why any. I mean, I don't want to say it, but I don't know why people would watch it after the fact. But people do. I have some streams. I have a stream from. Let me see here. I've got a stream from 2000 and it's still processing. I don't know. I did a live stream of getting started with Electron, and that's got like almost 10,000 views now. I did one with tinkering with this Gemini, which is like a WPF framework for making editors or something like that. That's got almost 1,000 views. So, but these are all live stream stuff. I want to do some actual like edited content though. I think what I'm going to do is make one. I want to make one where I do the I show people how to make boxes for games because I spent all that time learning that. I might as well do that. Like I don't know, man. I got some like I feel like I was going through my Twitter account and I got pretty damn good at it. Like if I pulled this off the shelf and I showed it to you, and I don't own this game.
Yeah, it looks good. You did that?
Yeah, this is just it's shrink wrapped, and it's my brother-in-law had this Akari 3 The Rescue in his shop, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make a box for that just to practice. But you would think that that's like a legit package software.
Yeah, you're like a Chinese bootlegger.
Yeah, basically. So like there were sites where I went and I downloaded the artwork and then I did touch ups and stuff like that. And I got pretty dang good at it. So
does your brother have the PS5s or Xboxes? Does he get those shipments?
He had like I think he might have he had to pay bootleg. No, he got like 5 of them or something like that, and he had to sell them for bootleg prices or something because it's mad right now. The demand is people would cut off their arm for it.
Yeah, I still can't get one.
Yeah.
So if he has to hook up, how much is he going to charge me?
I don't think he has got the hookup. He gets them in, they go out as quick as he has an Xbox One X that he's kind of holding on to.
But it's Series X.
Series X, or yeah.
Oh, okay.
The new one, the box one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but he doesn't. I don't think he's selling that one. He sold all of his PlayStations. He can't keep consoles in. People are buying up consoles like mad right now, even older consoles. So.
Really?
But yeah, so I think I might do a video on making how to put those boxes together. I was thinking about one about getting started with the Riot Games API for League of Legends, because they've got some. It's pretty interesting. So when you start a game of League of Legends, they actually launch a web endpoint as the game's running, so you can connect up, have a program sitting there polling for that web endpoint, and then when the game starts up, you can pull data in through that. And I figured it would be kind of interesting to just do a, like, if you've ever wanted to build your own tools for League of Legends, here's how I would get started coding that. So, but beyond that, I haven't thought of what else I want to do.
I think I'm going to start live streaming playing Duck Hunt. Like, I wonder if do they still sell zappers? I want to play it on my new. My system is live, man. I got a freaking home theater. I mean, I know it's not like a $20,000 like setup, but
the funny thing is though, the zappers don't work on those TVs.
Why not?
You have to have a CRT TV, and it's the way that the technology works. Only works with CRT TVs. You have to have a big box. People buy zappers and they think they're going to work with their LCD, and they don't, or their plasma or
there has to be
LED
something
or whatever. Well, I mean, there's
I
other
mean,
things.
The remote I could point and click, right? So
That's a remote's like an infrared type thing, right? Or
I don't know.
Which remote you're talking about? The Wii remote or
smart remote? Yeah, the smart remote for my TV.
Yeah. So the zappers, dude, if you want an interesting thing, look at how the zapper was created. It uses like.
I like the sound they used to make.
Huh?
I said I like the sound they used to make because you could hear like the spring.
Oh yeah, the yeah. Yeah.
I had a gray and white one.
I don't remember exactly how it is.
An orange and white one. Which color did you have in Nintendo?
Oh, I never had an original Nintendo. I had a Super Nintendo and an N64, but I wasn't able to procure a original Nintendo when I was a kid.
I remember when I got my Nintendo, like my father was hunting frantically for it. I don't know what town he got it from. I mean, because I was in Cleveland somewhere, but I know he drove somewhere to get it, and I was with him.
Yeah, my brother-in-law keeps a dangle of those zappers, and people buy them all the time.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of Super or NESs or whatever, and he I think he was selling, because you can buy like a
30,000 colors. I'm like,
but yeah, I don't know, man. You want to geek out though sometimes. Look at how those zappers were implemented, and I just imagine like how they thought that up.
The worst game ever. I watch documentaries, and they claim the worst game ever was
E.T.
E.T. Yeah, you saw the same documentary.
Yeah, I've seen them.
The worst game ever was a game called Fist of the North Star. It was the worst game ever. They had a bug in there that I don't think anybody finished the game because you couldn't get past this one bug. It would fatally crash every single time. It was from like Bandai or something. I think that's who produced it.
Oh, it had a comic apparently. Fist of the North Star.
I hated that. Like I was so angry that bug, and I would try everything to try to avoid it, but it would crash my game every single time. Anyway.
Wow.
Gotta put them on blast. You were saying something before?
No, I'm just looking at the artwork for it. So it's just kind of classic Street Fighter-esque, really, really overly muscular dudes.
Yeah, they need to come out with Contra. I used to be addicted to that game.
Do you have did you ever buy like the SNES or NES classics, the little ones? I think they got Contra 3 on one of those. Man, that's a hard game. Holy crap.
Contra
is one of the hardest video games of all time.
Oh no,
I think that's legit.
Don't these Xboxes and PlayStations have emulators to play those games?
They might have them in their stores or whatever.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to play that today if I could find out how to get it on there. Contra Xbox. Yeah, I just started playing video games again. So like I was late to this Masterminds because I was playing Halo Wars, and I mean, I won, but I didn't understand why the game was taking so long. Roman says CRT screens have extreme tight timing control for that. How does Roman know all this stuff?
I don't know. I think it's a fairly understood, thing for anyone who's got interest in it. Like it's a CRT thing. It's based on scan lines, and that
he's either German or Asian. He's a very knowledgeable person.
I thought we established that he was Dutch. I don't know.
He's not Polish.
No, Dutch or
no. He's from
Danish or Netherlands or
Scandinavian countries, right? Because I thought Scandinavia was an actual state.
Yeah. Swiss.
Same thing. Swiss chocolates.
A Germanic country.
But all right, well, I guess we geeked out. I'm going to try to get Contra on my Xbox One. And
do it up.
It looks like it's on PS4. Let me look up a YouTube video. All right, I guess I should try to start my day now. So
yeah,
it's been real. When are you gonna have your project done? Next Friday?
My fantasy console won't be done probably for months.
Okay.
I think I'll just keep working on it. Hopefully, I'm going gung ho right now, but I'll probably reduce down, and once it starts to become a little bit more less fun. But as these things tend to do. But I don't know. I think I might do a little bit of streaming this morning, and then I'm going to focus on trying to put together an actual. So I feel like I need to have some variety, not just the same live stream over and over again with the same thumbnail.
When do you expect to hear back from your interview?
I've got a technical interview on Tuesday, and I don't know what to expect from it. But
you nervous?
No, not really.
All right. Good stuff. It's been
I'll get it or I won't. So, all right, cool.
Bye, Roman. Take care.
Have a good week. Bye.
See you. I am out. I am terminating the broadcast, and peace.